everyone, Joe here from ActionX, and welcome to What's on the Tube, where for the next 13 or so weeks, we will be reviewing every episode in the first season of the new Nancy Drew spinoff show, Tom Swift. I gotta say, this show came out at the worst time. It is now officially summertime here in New York, and I wanted to do something a little bit different with my wardrobe because, it's a spin-off. Like, you gotta be swifty with it. You know, you gotta look fly. I mean, I don't have the flyest clothes in the world, but I knew I wanted to do something different. So when I picked this out, I was like, this looks cool. I then realized this entire show is coming out during the summer, and it's New York City. So it's very, very, very hot. So I am not looking forward to the hotter days. I'm very thankful before I did this review, I basically blasted my entire space with AC. So hopefully I won't be sweating during this. Hopefully we'll find out in a little bit. But yeah, here we are, a brand new show, Tom Swift. If you're unaware, Tom Swift is the spin-off to Nancy Drew, because the character was in an episode back in season 2, back at, oh my god, Jesus Christ, like at the start of the pandemic. God, I'm getting old. Jesus, like, well, not at the start of the pandemic, more like at the start of like the production pandemic schedule, where shows were coming back to work, but with masks, a lot of restrictions back then. Still is now, but, you know, just saying that's when, like, the current phase of how things are usually shot nowadays is being filmed. So that was meant for that to be a backdoor pilot, introducing the character, getting a little taste of him, not in that method of speaking, but and everyone loved him. So he got his own show fully. It's been some time. It's been a whole 2021 without. I honestly got scared for a little, because I think this episode came out at the beginning of 2021, like towards the end of season 2. It feels so long ago because we went for an entire Nancy Drew season without it, and I know there was plans to bring him back on the show in case his show didn't get picked up, which I'm thankful it is, because I always like expanding the universes, and of course, always with us, we always support spin-offs, no matter how many they may be, because next fall we're reviewing 2 more spin-offs on the top of our regular workload. So, but as much as I groan and like moan about my busier schedule, I'm happy to do this. I'm really, because right now with the first episode of Tom Swift, I enjoyed it. There's potential here. There's definitely kind of this classic feel to it in terms of a mystery. There definitely is a couple of cringy elements to it, I'm not going to lie, but it's kind of similar to how when I started reviewing Nancy Drew back in, Jesus Christ, also 2019, that was a longer time ago. And the fact that if you were to tell me that Nancy Drew was gonna spawn out its own spin-off show in Tom Swift back in 2019, I would have been, who the fuck is Tom Swift? And I know in the books he is a character. I'm not entirely sure if he has his own book series. That I don't know. Like, even when I was doing I am still doing the Drew episode reviews as they come out, I maybe vaguely recall reading a book or two, most likely just the book. Well, a book, I mean, but never in a million years hearing about Tom Swift. And honestly, look, it's the way the CW is working right now, and I know there's a lot of, you know, problematic decisions they made recently with their upcoming season, with canceling fan favorite shows, doing more and more spin-offs, and it's like, look, at the end of the day, they're a business. Nancy Drew somehow is, and I'm thankful for it, in their top 8 of the highest viewed show, which I'm thankful for, because that means we still have a show to review next year, which I'm also thankful Nancy Drew isn't coming back till 2023, because I'm like, oh my god, if we have to review 6 shows this fall, I'll be like, listen guys, something's gonna go, because there's absolutely no way I'm gonna be able to review 6 shows a week. There's absolutely no way. But I'm very thankful. But, you know, here we are, Tom Swift, all the background spiel itself. You know me already, or you just got a small taste of me. Get ready, that's gonna be the next 13 to 15 weeks of your life just with me in the blazing sun. But anyway, here we are, Tom Swift pilot. Well, first episode, since we already got the pilot. So you can go check that out. And also on YouTube, check out such ActionX videos to hear about my first thoughts on Tom Swift as a character. But here we are, we're fully immersed in his world and such. Now, as baseline thoughts on the premiere so far, I enjoyed it a lot. I think this was the right tone of a show, that it's not trying to be Nancy Drew. It isn't. It's mainly leading towards the side of technology and the world of invention. And of course, obviously, like with many of these shows, the characters, you know, we're seeing grow. We're already getting a taste of everything, the taste of the larger mystery. And so for me, one of my fears going into it was like, how in the hell were you going to do it? Because Tom Swift did not receive much promotional material before the first poster came out. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot this was a show. Like, I knew it was going to happen. Like, I always put it in my bulletin that, yeah, Tom Swift's going to be a show at some point. At some point, whenever the CW announces it, and then we got to review it. I'm aware of that, but I kept forgetting like what the show was about. And I know they left some vague teases in season 2 of Nancy Drew when we saw his character last. This being like we're fully into the mystery, which I do like. I'm very surprised at how well paced, and well, not well paced, more like a little bit accelerated the show is. Like, it's giving me some Walker vibes, where Walker, I have a preconception of how the mystery should go, and then they give us like, you know, a big revelation like a little bit too sooner than I was expecting, in a good way. This was kind of like it, where like there were certain moments where I felt like they would have saved this for a later episode. I would have imagined the episode would have come off at the 45-minute mark had it been a full hour. But no, they kept going. And I'm honestly liking that element a lot as we go into more and more of these newer era shows, where you can be a little fast and loose because the episode counts are getting shorter. They're not the massive 22 episodes orders we had back in, I want to say, when I was a kid, back in the early days of the 2000s, in the early 2010. We don't get those amount of episodes anymore. People would tend to, unless it's a comedy, people tend to groan because you're stretching out the story too much. You can tell a much more tighter story, save the budget, and only focus on what the story really needs, so you could tell that tighter story. Here, I think the pacing was just right. You know, we're already off to the races. You know, we have our world set up. We have our characters. Now we're getting into the mystery, getting into the more week-to-week elements when we come back next week. So I think as a premiere, it does a really good job of giving us that introduction. There are some cringy elements, of course, you know, that's honestly unavoidable because... how do I say this nicely? I'm not trying to use the term "it's a CW show" because everyone uses that terminology, because it is true of the big of the 5 top broadcasters right now. It is ABC, Fox, CBS, NBC, and then the CW. CW being 5th, of course. I view there's a certain lens to it. There's a little bit more of the... How do I say it? I'll go for the Butcher recap, which is, if you're unaware of your first time, it's where I basically recap the entire episode, giving my partial reviews throughout. And also, by the way, please do, if you're hoping to get a full episode recap for me, you're not going to get it. Just letting you know, go watch the episode beforehand. Also, I'll be spoiling everything. So there you go. So let's get to the races there. So we begin at Swift Manor, and oh my God, I want this house so bad. This looks like a dream Joe house. It really does. Like, it's so perfectly colored. The layout is great. I loved it as well. Well, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Anyway, so it's a big day for the Swift family. They're a day out from the launch of the new Swift spaceship that's going to take Tom Swift's dad up to Saturn, which we had teased in season 2's episode Nancy Drew. So that's literally the only connection there between Nancy Drew, i.e. the Parent series, is that if you're unaware, if you haven't watched it yet, Tom went to Horseshoe Bay to find this very old meteorite that was buried in Horseshoe Bay that would give them the experimental fuel to allow their spaceship to go up into Saturn and, you know, and then come back, like do a full rotation. That's the whole spiel. I really, again, I guess I do get why it's only Tom's dad. I mean, we need to have a protagonist of the show still on Earth. But for that reason, like, you know, Tom was the one who developed the ship. We have no idea how long it's been since that episode of Nancy Drew. I want to say, if we're going to go by real world time, actually, even that's so wrong, because Nancy Drew's kind of on a finicky timeline as well, since I want to say that episode took place roughly end of September for the Drew crew. I want to say that as a factual fact. I could be wrong there, but that's around the time period. So be it as that faction may. So, and they don't really give a time period on how long this is, and they even do their own time skip. So time is aberration. It's been some time. The spaceship's built. They're ready to go. So Mr. Swift's getting the whole, like, you know, pomp and circumstance ready, with Tom coming in to do the whole technological side, to talk about how the spaceship is operational, why is it going up in the air now, and, you know, and talk about it. But he's nowhere to be found. His best friend, Zazie, I'm going to call her Z for the time being, because I do not want to butcher her name currently, so... So she's also played by Aisling Murray, who played Josie on Riverdale, which honestly I was surprised by, because I honestly thought they were going to go through with the Josie spinoff that they were kind of teasing back in the last season of Riverdale, because Riverdale's still a show for one more season, thankfully. Sorry, tea with a perfect temperature. Anyway, through Zazi's walk throughout the house, we get to meet the other members of the Swift family. Tom Swift's mom, who I believe is a socialite. I believe that the terminology is that she's kind of like in this big fancy schmancy social group that's been wanting to get Tom in for a while. Tom has a brother who is more on the lines of just your average ordinary teenager. You know, he's just wanting to test out all the cool stuff his older brother invents for him. Like right now, they invented some anti-gravity shoes, as I like to call it. But however, it's still in the prototype stage. It's just, you know, you got the sound effect, but you don't got the jumpy part. So I guess, you know, that's progress for a prototype. And his bodyguard, which I'm getting the sense of like these two have some sort of like immediately once Z like slips and he catches her. I'm like, yeah, this is a clear like they got a thing for each other, or maybe there's some subliminal feelings in there. So that's fine. That was kind of one of the cringier moments where I'm like, it didn't come naturally. It just came like, they maybe had some feelings for a while, but of course, obviously, they're two different worlds. Z's going to falling more into like not the rich people crap, but more like the business side of things. You know, like the bigger levels, and he's just a bodyguard. You know that age old Lady and Tramp type story. If that's the only reference I can make of right now, they find Tom shirtless for some reason, building some piece of machinery, and I'm just thinking to myself, you're working with very high temperatures, yet you don't have a shirt on. Okay, so this is our character already. I love it. Again, you know, also amazing body. This guy. I mean, he probably worked out a ton. Like that's a great lean body. He forgot about the presentation. He apologized, and he'll make it up to his dad sometime down the road. He was just working on some big thing. His dad comes in pretty furiously that, you know, he left him high and dry, you know, kind of like just to like badger the press conference a little bit without any of the science talk, because it's just a rich guy talking about this big thing we're doing, but we don't have the science to back it up, and they have it. It's just he was busy. He expresses his regret and his, you know, disdain for Tom's actions and character that, you know, before he left, he was going to make him interim CEO of Swift Industries, Swift Enterprises. I think it's Swift Enterprises. But when he's away, but however, because of Tom's performance today, he does not feel confident enough, so he gives it to his sister instead to run the company in his absence, leading to these two having a bit of a skirmish, and, you know, Tom being uninvited from the launch, which I'm like, hold up, Dad, hold up. I know Tom's living under your roof, but again, he has a point. This spaceship wouldn't be possible without him and his adventure with the Drew crew. It wouldn't be possible. As well as, yes, you are funding it. I'm not saying you're not, but I'm just saying that your money would have probably taken even more much of a longer time with regular scientists and your own son, who probably did this for free for you. So I'm like, uninviting him from the launch, from this like momentous occasion, that's a bit of a, I don't agree with it. I get the fatherly sense of it. I get where he's coming from, but as terms of like, you know, the work he's put into this rocket for you to go into, I don't think of it as, you know, the right move. But however, it creates conflict between them, and they don't get to resolve it before he leaves, because the next day, Tom, from a very long distance from his observatory, just watches his dad fly out into Saturn, into space. Just left it there, you know, and we come back 6 months later. This was the check-in point where, by this point, Tom's dad should have already arrived to Saturn. So now he's just making the communication that I'm here, I'm seeing it, and I'm coming back. So they have that as a plan. Tom is doing the speech this time around so that, you know, he can like welcome his dad back to like Earth's broadcast waves, I guess. His mom's trying to set him up with this good-looking lawyer, a brand new associate at a law firm, and she's already like, you know, saying like, you know, you guys' last names can make a pretty great power couple, which I'm like, I'll give it that. There's always the mom that's trying to get you to pair up with you with someone else. I mean, haven't we all have a mom like that? My mom didn't, but still. So they get along pretty well at first. They got a vibe for each other, but Tom's more focused on, you know, just getting the speech over, where he kind of wants to get back to inventing, you know, trying to get back to his usual stuff. We meet the congressman, because I don't remember his regular name, who Swift Enterprises had funded his last campaign run. So they kind of got him in his pocket, I guess, in a way of sorts. Again, that's not really the best thing to be for this show, but like, again, we know already that once someone funds someone, you're basically in their pocket. It's just a matter of fact there. So Tom gives the speech, is ready to communicate with his dad. At first, they don't get much of a connection, but there's just some random jabber that there's a CG model of the spaceship estimated to be at Saturn already. They're trying to link contact. But the moment they do, the ship blows up, and everyone presumes that Tom's dad is dead. And we're already off to the funeral. Everyone's mourning. You know, his mom is, of course, obviously a complete wreck right now. Tom is just, how do I say this? He's very neutral. Like, okay, don't get me wrong, he still misses his dad, but considering the way things ended with him and his dad, he's filled with more guilt, but he's trying to hide it. He's trying to like ensure everyone that he's okay. So the service is over. They head back to their house to do like the memoriam speech. Tom's drinking, of course, obviously not in the right mindset. But however, there's some silver lining. He's still very much in disbelief that his spaceship himself was the one that caused the accident. So he's trying to run simulations and anything to kind of disprove that, hey, it's not my fault, something else. So he has this AI, which I forgot. It's the same AI from Nancy Drew, same voice actor and everything. I'm honestly happy that they didn't do the Jarvis route of like having him be like just this random CG model everywhere. It's just the voice, which again, it's probably for budget constraints, but you know that's still cool. And I really like the voice. It's not a serious voice. It's more like a lighthearted voice. It's very friendly and inviting. Let's say that. Tom has enough of the funeral. Well, no, so. I forgot, no, not yet. So Tom is about to give the speech for his dad's memory, but he struggles to find the words and the energy to do it because I don't think he fully accepts the fact that this happened, especially it was kind of his responsibility that he got to this point. Z comes up and gives her own speech, which was enough to kind of, you know, pass along the eulogy, and Tom is just, you know, still blindsided, still not in the right mindset. So what do you do when you don't know what the heck you're going to say next? You go hook up with the next hot guy next to you, which I guess can work for anyone in the room, which he does. He hooks up with the lawyer guy. So they do that off screen. I know Tom's mom gets a little bit of a side word from the leader of the socialite group that she's kind of displeased with what Tom's performance was at this speech. Said, well, if Tom isn't gonna like step out on a very serious emotional event, how is he going to do it for other events? Which again, is this what Tom really wants? Probably not, but it's all about what his mom wants because his mom has done a lot for him, you know, over the course of his life. Which, like most moms, you know, they do a lot for us, so it's only the little things that, you know, you can hopefully recompense them on. We got to the next day. Tom's still, you know, mourning. You know, I'm just saying, like, Tom just had a very steamy hookup with this guy, and he's just like back to moping. Which I get the situation, but I'm just like, you know, this is the pair of events. Like, it was just weird for me. His bodyguard comes in trying to comfort him, but Tom's not really hearing it. Eventually, they get an update from the simulation saying that, yeah, so the explosion wasn't an external, no, it wasn't an internal explosion. It was an external explosion. So me thinking, is Tom still about to fight aliens? I'm like, okay. Let's do it. Let's do the 100 over again. I don't really mind that. I enjoyed the 100 for majority of it, so I wouldn't really mind that. I want to say that, yeah, so I think Tom goes over to the congressman to get some sanctions, some approvals to launch an investigation into this so that they can find out who the heck really did this. The congressman's like, sure, we're going to start it, but it's going to take some time. But Tom's like, nah, I need this to be done ASAP. And the congressman's like, well, that's not how it works. But Tom's like, look, listen, my family basically funded your last campaign. Like, if you don't do this for me, I don't know what you're going to be doing next term around, which I'm like, again, that's really not, like, I get that is what really happens in our own political society, but, like, still, like, the fact that, like, Tom's is basically like, I funded you. I need you to do me this thing, which, again, is not a corrupt thing at all. It's just a personal thing that he's trying to find for his dad, but still, it's like, you know, him using the person in power is really not, like, you know, it's really it kind of is eye-opening for how the real world is at times, to be honest with you. Tom gets a little bit aggressive towards him. The congressman security guard tells him to back off, you know, be a little bit more pushy away from him. So Tom doesn't really get much updates on that front. He talks to Z about it, and I want to say, I forgot what, yeah, so they talk about it for a little bit, but then we cut over to Tom and his mom. Their first night solo after his dad's death, and I don't know why there's fucking mini flies in my house. I gotta check that out later, but Tom's trying to talk about what he's investigated, trying to tell her, like, there's still hope that, maybe we can figure out something. And so I'm like, I don't want to hear this. I'm still grieving. This isn't the time for you to be talking about, oh, maybe this wasn't an accident. Like, I don't want to hear it. Your dad's gone. That's it. Case in point. Which does make Tom a little bit sad that, he's on the right track to something, but he's not really getting the attention and the support he should be getting. I believe we cut to the next day where Tom is still figuring out, okay, what else can we do to figure. Oh no, I think we got another projection that, so no, not yet. I forgot how the order is, but eventually they do figure out, like, okay, there's a satellite. Apparently they may have planted something on the spaceship, but we don't know exactly where and how. So sadly, majority of, like, the only technological computers that would even have access to this, let's call it a supercomputer that could potentially get them the access to the information they require. Sadly, really without their reach. But there's an MIT equivalent to, like, a failure school, like a backup school, let's call it, that has one of these computers. And Tom could easily, like, weasel his way in with, like, hey, I'm gonna donate $20 million so you guys can have a charity. So not charity, like a scholarship foundation. Which I'm like, again, using money, flattering money, like $20 million. I'm just thinking to myself, Jesus, if I even had like $1 million, I'd be set with life. The fact that he's just throwing $20 million just to get the access to a supercomputer is just hilarious. Tom goes full heist mode as he's planning out, like, what do we need to do? How do we get inside? What's the motive? What's the steps? How do we get to this information? Basically, Tom's the main man. His bodyguard's the backup. He's going to get Z to kind of be the flaunting eye candy that's going to distract them. And his brother is just going to be back in the van. Oh, well, not in the van, back at the base. But you know what I mean? I always wanted a van guy. Like, every time I always plan to do a heist, I need a van person. I need someone to just stay in the van, maybe just listen to the weirdest music in the world, and then just have the one moment where they just escape out of there very fast. That's all I want. But, oh no. Z's initially hesitant because she thinks this is a crime, that she's getting involved in this. Tom basically bribes her with, like, I'll do your little side project for soap. Which I'm like, how the hell does soap factor into this one? I don't really know myself. And as well as he gives her an allowance to basically buy whatever dress she wants for the party, which, again, I like this dress a lot. And also, another cringy moment of the episode, the fact that the bodyguard's like, he doesn't even hide it. It's just so, like, wow. Like, wow. It says, like, he just wants her right now, obviously. But, this is Team Tom here. It's not about them. It's about Team Tom here. So, they go in, they go flank her. They try to wait for their opportunity to go get to the supercomputer. I know Z's basically gonna, I guess, kiss up to the congressman, I guess, to kind of distract him for some weird reason. Not the rest of the campus, just no, this congressman has to be kissed up for some reason. I don't really recall why. So Tom heads over to the computer room. He's getting his way in, but then the congressman's bodyguard comes in for some reason to stop him. And then I don't remember what happened in this part, but I know eventually other people enter the room, but they hide behind a panel and they witness a murder right in front of them. And they're obviously confused. Like, what the hell's going on here? Like, I was just here to access a supercomputer. What the hell are these people here for? So I think eventually they leave the room, but I want to say, yeah, so Tom and him has to plan a quick getaway. They have to get out of their clothes and, sneak off as, like, custodian men. And Tom's asking questions about, why are you doing this for me? What are you working for? Like, what are you working on? And that sort of thing. He doesn't give too many answers away. All that was said in these moments was that he knew his dad and he knew something was wrong. So he's just trying to be helpful when he can, even though he's working for someone else that's opposing Tom in a way. But we'll get to that later. So back at the party, just a weird moment. I guess, again, this was just establishing that these two have chemistry, or these two are going to have a thing, is that Z and the bodyguard just randomly dance after the bodyguard pulls her away from the congressman. This is also the notice that the bodyguard is transgender. Honestly, I couldn't know. Honestly, I didn't even notice. Or this is so, I'm trying to be very careful when he's transgender. Let's just say that. That's it. So regardless of that, they're dancing. There's clearly a spark between them. And it's like, maybe down the road, we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. in the world of Tom Swift. Tom gets thrown back to his house by the guy. They exchange names. I already forgot the other bodyguard's name, but so they're in touch now. So whatever they need to do, they need to do. Tom keeps his own bodyguard and Z out of the loop about what he found out fully, and he's just morally focused on what do we get out of the satellite? What's the next step here? Z's trying to stop him, like, calm down, take a breath, like fill us in, like, because you're basically using us as like tools for your little investigation by this point, and you're not really giving us the respect and we deserve for being like, we don't want to be your partner. We don't want to be your accomplices. We just want to be your partner. Like, tell us what's going on. And Tom is kind of stupidly stubborn here, where like he is admitting like, hey, you're basically kind of on my payroll. So who does it really matter? I tell you everything, which I'm like, dude, they don't have to do that. Like, I'm pretty sure that in your bodyguard's contract, it does not mention I'm going to perform semi-espionage on a campus's supercomputer, or kind of use your best friend who you call your playmate, which I'm like, okay, now you're going a little bit too far. And I'm actually very happy that Z didn't really smack him. That would have really sold the scene, but we didn't. She just gives him a very firm wording about this. At first, Tom doesn't care. He heads off to his study, and I want to say he finds out that, so the satellite, so they got a little bit of an image of the satellite, of transmitting the bomb, let's call it, onto the spaceship. And then it was very sticky to the point that it survived the entire trip there. And as soon as it arrived at Saturn, it just blew up. So, now Tom wants to know who owns that satellite. And sadly, there's no record of that satellite being owned by anyone. So they're kind of screwed there. And then what happens next is, I want to say, so he calls up the lawyer guy because I guess he has some connections with knowing people, I want to say. Because they find these two red circles, which I'm like, not again. Why do mystery organizations have to use circles in their symbols? Like, why? What is the cause of this? I mean, because there's the CMR, the freaking bad guys of The Walking Dead, which since 2019, 2018, we've been teased that they're a big threat. They're going to come after the heroes. And like, it's been almost 5 years. Are they actually going to do shit? Anyway, so Tom calls up the lawyer dude. He doesn't really get much information about it. The only connection that they have is that the launching pad for the satellite originally was owned by a private company or private person, the congressman. So that kind of paints the congressman as like a villain here, because like he has a connection there. Does it make him the killer? We don't know. Tom meets up with the lawyer, and the lawyer gives him some more information that like, it's so the secret. There's a secret. So there's a shell company that actually owns the satellite, but it's rumored to be part of this secret Illuminati type cabal called Under the Rocks, Under the Road. I forgot what the name is, but it's something with the word under. Their primary focus has been to kind of undermine any major scientific advancements that humanity could be achieving, basically in the present day environment, which I've heard some things in our real world that like, yes, there are like certain pieces of technology that I think the government or just some certain selective entities have already that's like way more advanced, but it's like a slow stream out of when we get it. So let's say hypothetically, I'm pulling this out of my ass here. Like the government probably has the iPhone 20 by this point, but we only have like, I think, well, we're up to 13 to 14. I don't keep track with the numbers, but they probably have that, but they slowly roll it out so that eventually when we get it's like this new piece of technology, but for them, they're like, oh, this is obsolete. Like, we don't really need this anymore, which it makes sense. So Tom gets this information. He was about to initiate another coitus session with this guy, but he remembers that his mom signed him up for this. Well, not signed him up, like his mom reminded him that there's a big, I think it was symbolism or like, they were going to honor his father at Swift Enterprises that day, and he missed it. He goes up to go be with his mom, but his mom's like very disappointed in him since she was hoping that he would be there. Like, okay, yeah, the funeral, I understand it's an emotional time, but it's been a couple days, so you should be good by this point to at least give a better speech, but you didn't, which I kind of get. I do understand, but still, like the fact that it's starting to get to him that, like, he's not fulfilling to his responsibilities, not fulfilling to what his friends and family want him to achieve. It gets to him. He gets a little aggressive. He breaks his family portrait. He makes his room a mess. Well, not his room, his dad's office a mess. But the humanizing moment here was, as he was throwing down the books, he finds his dad kept the secret section for him. You know, like all of his childhood mementos, you know, like newspaper clippings of when Tom had his earlier achievements, and early birthday cards saying that I'm going to send you to Saturn one day. It was very cute. It basically brought Tom back down to the level that, and as much as he and his dad argued lately before he left the Saturn, there was still an ounce of like that he loved him. And that kind of motivates Tom to kind of, you know, start thinking about his own family and friends that are still on Earth. So he makes the soap, he finishes up the shoots for his brother. So those are conveniently restored. Those are fine. You know, we're back to normal on that. And then I want to say after that moment, I know we get some big revelation. Yeah. I want to say Tom gets back to his lab and he finds something. He finds this like, this communication module that supposedly has a lot of data on it, but it doesn't really like what the access with their computer doesn't give him that much. So he just assumes that, if we access it through an old fancy schmancy way, we can get the rest of the data, which it works. It's a final message recording from his dad 3 weeks after the bombing, which proves that A, he's alive, B, he's aware there's a conspiracy behind it, and C, he's running out of time. You know, there's only limited resources that this research pod has. So he needs Tom to, like, you know, get this remaining signal module that he's sending out right now in hopes of, like, to Tom to figure out how to bring him home and, you know, bring him back safe and sound so they can expose who really did this. He did have one more message for Tom, but sadly the communication gets cut off before they're able to fully figure that out. So Tom starts to track let's call it the meteor, the cybernetic meteor, I'm going to call it. So he gets Z involved. They make up again. Like personally, they make up that, yeah, you're sorry about that, but you kind of need a little bit of slapping. You kind of need that a little bit. They're outside the Hudson River, or Hudson River akin, I guess, to what the location is. They're seeing the meteor fall from the sky, but the problem is that the meteor just coincidentally breaks into multiple pieces. So like it's landing all over the country, which I'm like, I had a feeling this would happen, but you know what? It works. It worked. Like, let's do a road trip. Let's go around the states and get these pieces back. And the only priority is that they cannot tell anyone else about what the heck's going on. So, whoever's in the group. So like, it's just Tom, his bodyguard, Z, and his brother. Those are the only people that know that, yeah, Dad's alive. We need to find him. And these pieces are the key to it. So, that's all they leave them for now. So, Tom also makes do with his bodyguard, because his bodyguard, as much as he didn't say anything, he did feel a little bit out of place when, you know, Tom was asking him to do these like very extra things that he never really asked to do. So as they're about to set off for their first stop on their world tour, let's call it, Tom gives him a brand new outfit, you know, so that he can ride in style as they start to go collect these remaining pieces. So they're about to hit the road, and sadly, the AI gets hacked in at some point during the episode. And so the mysterious cabal that Tom is aware exists, consisting of the congressman and a bunch of other businessmen, including his bodyguard that we saw early in the episode. They're all in on it. And in convenient villain mystery fashion, he's like, okay, all of y'all, there's conveniently enough of you for one of you to go and get a piece of this device. I can trust you. You can delay Tom's efforts to try and figure out our mystery. Which I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, that sounded cringy. I should have expected that. But hey, it's a way to keep the show going for 13 episodes, so I don't really mind. So yeah, that ends the episode with, you know, the mystery is afoot, the world tour has begun, and the race is on. Who's going to get the pieces first? What's going to happen next? We don't know. We'll find out next week in the next episode of Tom Swift. And yes, my armpits are already starting to feel a little moist, so I'm like, damn it, it's already time. But again, I really enjoyed this episode a lot. I think this does a pretty good start to the show, to the series, to this mystery. There's a lot we don't know about this world. It doesn't entice me. I will say that, like, it doesn't make me want to really keep the mystery guessing going. Because, like, yeah, there's still something we don't know about. Like, why specifically is Tom Swift's dad in their crossfire? Like, there's a lot of things we still don't know about this case yet. So, I don't mind it. But it isn't like Nancy Drew's first mystery, where I was a little bit invested in figuring out who the killer was, because we didn't get to know. We didn't get much hints. This way, we got so many hints. We know the villain's face. We know what's going on. It's just now a matter of finding out exactly why. So, it lowers the impact of this mystery a bit. I will admit that, but otherwise, everything seems to be good. We got great characters. There's a story there, and, you know, hopefully, this is the beginning of a long 13 weeks. But we'll see how next week goes. But for me, I'm going to give this episode 2 thumbs up. I enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this week's episode of the premiere of Tom Swift? Let's talk about it down below. And I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the first season of Tom Swift. That's right. I'm going to do that every time I say Tom Swift. And also just trying to get air in my pits. That's basically it. If you want to see more of us, please subscribe to us on youtube.com/ActionX video, where we have many more What's the Twos posting each and every week, which currently we're doing Walker episode reviews each and every week, and Under the Banner of Heaven reviews each and every week as well. But if you only care about Tom Swift, you're in luck. We'll be back next week for another episode review each and every Wednesdays, as the schedule prohibits us. So yeah, we'll see you guys next week. But again, please like, favorite, share this review if you want to. Please also ring that bell for notification when our next episode review is live. And please also follow us on social media to stay up to date with any sort of updates we may have for our channel, which also include the collection compass. But again, until we see each other again, for all you Swifters out there, let's start this journey off right. Let's keep the energy going. Let's keep the momentum going. I'll see you all next week. But until then, stay safe out there. Be good to each other. And as always, peace out.